As the 2023 NFL season approaches, so too does a new year of fantasy football. Fans can draft their own teams to play against friends, family, or even complete strangers. Fantasy football is growing in popularity every year, so this begs the question of why. What exactly is fantasy football, and why do people enjoy playing it? To answer these questions, I had to get answers from the best fantasy football player I know. So the way fantasy football works is you join a league. It could be a private league, it could be a public league, whatever. Everyone in the league does a draft, and in the draft, everyone drafts NFL players to their fantasy teams. And whenever a player gets yards, scores a touchdown, catches a pass, whatever it is, they will score points in fantasy. I have a league with my friends. It's called the GOAT League, and I play to win. Obviously, the prize money's cool. That's kind of secondary to me. I like to play to assert my dominance over everyone else. And I got to make sure that I know what I'm doing, so I do a lot of prep in the off season. Draft day is the biggest day of the year. It's when everyone gets their teams, everyone gets their players, and it kind of marks the start of the season. Some leagues like mine have a punishment for whoever gets last, which kind of adds on to why I do so much prep, because I will never let myself get in that situation, because last year, the guy that got last, he had to eat a shit ton of pancakes from Denny's. He was there for like, I don't know, 12 hours or something? I don't remember. But that could never be me. And I don't really know how that went. You'd have to ask someone else how that went. I decided to do just that and went to talk to the person that would know exactly how it went.
Hello, I'm Eric Diaz, and I got last in fantasy football.
Do you look forward to fantasy football?
This year, yeah, because I know I'm
This
not.
year?
Yeah, I'm not about to get last. That's what I know.
What do you think is good about fantasy football?
Fun to play with all the friends in there, get together and watch football.
I didn't use the best camera I had to interview Eric because I felt he wasn't worth it. I also thought I should ask one other member of the league about fantasy, Eric's quote-unquote brother.
What's up? It's Miguel. My name's Miguel. Yeah, my name's Miguel. I play fantasy with these guys.
Yeah.
And I got second place twice in a year. Fell short, looking for the three-peat.
What do you like about fantasy?
I don't.
So why are you here? Why are you playing this?
It's all right, I guess. If it wasn't for fantasy, I wouldn't be that interested in football. I'm gonna be honest. If it wasn't for the competitive nature within our group, I wouldn't really look forward to every Sunday and seeing their disappointment when their football player falls short.
On the topic of downfalls, it was time to ask Eric about his time as last place of the league.
Yeah, so I had to do the pancake house job. So I stayed there for like 8 hours because every pancake you eat takes an hour off. So I ate like 8 pancakes.
God damn.
Took 8 hours off, so I was there for the whole afternoon.
So you visited Eric when he was at Denny's, right?
Yeah, we visited him. All right, we're practically halfway through. What's the feeling? How you feeling?
I feel fat. I don't want to eat this no more. It looks disgusting to me now.
I remember it was Alexei, Gabe, I think Nick, Cade, and I, and we made plans for frisbee golf right in front of him. while we knew he was gonna be stuck. It was good time, really good time.
After the draft, did you think you would get last?
I did not. I thought I would at least get like at least 7. Like at least in the middle. I don't know. I didn't think I was gonna get last.
I asked Eric about the last place forfeit. Did you think Eric would get last place?
It was it was very plausible. Straight after draft day, it was very clear who had good teams and who didn't, and he was one of the didn't.
Things get toxic.
Of course, it's always toxic, but that's part of the game. That's part of the game, being toxic. Oh yeah, things definitely get toxic. The Go League is not a safe space, but some people are definitely more toxic than others.
One thing is that you get in lots of arguments.
No,
with
what do you mean?
people.
What do you mean?
So, do you think that you are toxic?
Oh, no.
Strangely enough, Miguel was the only one of the three to say the league isn't toxic. It seems like a question I should dive deeper into later, because honestly, I just don't trust his goofy, smug face. For now, I need to learn more about the dynamics of fantasy football from the expert.
There are a lot of decisions to make during the fantasy season. There's a waiver wire with all the free agents, and people can add the free agents to their team all throughout the season. Each week, a fantasy manager can change their starting lineup, but it's not as easy as it seems. Sometimes players can just shit the bed for no reason. It happened week 1 to someone in our league. Gabe Noda, he had like the consensus best team in the league. Like he was the favorite to win it all. And week 1, he started a running back that scored 0 for like no apparent reason. Like it was a mystery, but that guy scored 0. He got nothing from him. And then next week, our actual eventual champion, Alexei, he put up 200 points. So it really is just a coin flip sometimes on how good your team's going to do. But for reference, 200 points is like a once in a season type thing, maybe. Like 150 points for your team is like really good. 200 is like insane. Yeah, sometimes players just get injured at random times and it kind of just fucks everything up for you. That's fantasy.
There was a game in London last year, so it started early in the United States on the West Coast, 6:30 a.m., but a player was suddenly ruled out right before it started. The owner of that player, Brendan, who happens to be in the military, was still sleeping, so he ended up starting the injured player and got 0 points from them.
Changing your lineup weekly is one thing, but trades are a different beast. This could really change the course of your season. There was one trade last year between that a lot of people said was the worst. I don't think it was the worst, but it was between Caleb and Brendan, 2 guys in our league, obviously. In the trade, some players were definitely better than others, which made it one-sided for Brendan. But honestly, I don't even think it was that bad. I just think it looks worse because the 2 players that Brendan got in the trade ended up going off for a lot of points on the same week. And Brendan actually ended up scoring 200 that week, which was crazy.
He wouldn't say any more about the trade because he felt like he talked about it enough in his own YouTube videos, or he talks about the GOAT League. But I was able to get more information about what he thought was truly the worst trade of the season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Kenneth Walker, between none other than Eric and Miguel.
I think it was a steal. I think it was a good trade. Just because Clyde's production that we saw before those weeks.
He had good
amazing.
points. He
They
had
were
good points. But if you paid attention, you could tell it was just lucky touchdowns. That's why I wanted to get rid of him. But this guy...
But I didn't know nothing about Walker. And I thought, I don't know, just fucking...
I mean, you did get him off waivers, so it's fair.
Him off waivers.
It's fair.
So I'm like, you know what, I'll just trade him, get somebody that's good. Turns out he wasn't that good.
You knew that it was a steal once you...
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely, but it was a fair trade.
Well, no, yeah, that trade sucked. I wish I kept it.
At the time, it was a fair trade. In retrospect, it is not a fair trade at all.
I was pissed when I saw the trade. I couldn't believe Miguel fucking got away with that. Like, are you serious? Kenneth Walker for CEH? I couldn't believe it. It's definitely worse than the last one I talked about with Caleb. Like, at least Caleb got something in return, you know what I mean? Eric got a free Ferrari that he just found outside, and he could have kept that. But instead, he traded it for a moped that doesn't even start half the time. But honestly, there might have been one trade that was still worse.
After I was left with an unclear answer, I did some research and found a trade between Cade and Jack in the GOAT League. Jack has a reputation for making questionable decisions in fantasy, potentially because of his deployment status in the military. His dad also apparently has access to his account, which has caused some weird things to happen. In the simplest terms, Cade was able to get the fantasy MVP of the season and a decent wide receiver for a first-round bust running back and a wide receiver that would go on to miss several weeks. Cade has a history of fishing for one-sided trades like these in attempts to save his fantasy season.
Cade is a different being during fantasy season. He's not your friend. Bro, this guy's ass. Yeah, dude, he's bound to get hurt. Just give him to me.
This motherfucker Cade, man. Let me tell you, he might be the best manipulator, gaslighter, whatever you want to say. I would put him up against anyone you know. I've seen him pull off some crazy stuff in fantasy, and if his fantasy season was on the line, I'll tell you, he could out-manipulate whoever you know. Your mom, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your dad, your dog, your auntie, your landlord, the car mechanic that keeps saying you got shit wrong with your car, anybody. He would smoke all of them. He would finesse them all if it meant that his fantasy season was saved. But to be honest, he honestly shouldn't even need to finesse. Because if he just drafted better, he wouldn't even need to do all that.
For Cade and others in the league, being near the bottom of the standings was a big deal, as it was the first year a last place punishment was introduced. The term pancake watch was used to describe anybody in danger of having to face the pancake punishment at the end of the season. Ironically, 2 people I talked to were noticeably involved with this term for entirely different reasons.
But yeah, I remember them throwing up pancake watch like every week. Every week somebody was losing. Pancake watch.
So Miguel, to go back to what you said earlier, you said this. You said it doesn't get toxic.
Oh, not at all.
You're not part of it. You're not part of this non-toxicity.
Oh no, of course not. Of course not.
To Miguel's point, there was one instance where Miguel was accused of calling out others for being on Pancake Watch. However, a few text searches in the group chat revealed that this wasn't actually the case, leading Miguel to feel targeted due to his past actions.
This is proof that even when I'm innocent, I'm not. I didn't say shit.
So you didn't say shit there.
Uh-oh. Alright, against Gabe, this is completely different. This doesn't count.
Why is it different? What's different about Gabe?
Alright.
Tell the people.
Alright. Gabe is one of my closest friends. I trust him with everything. He should trust me with everything. Outside of fantasy football. Okay. We're different beings when it comes to fantasy football.
You wanna
I gotta. They always argue about the littlest things ever.
Eric, tell us the real story, Eric.
They argue about anything, bro. It's crazy. Just bigger. For fun. And it's like they're doing it for fun too.
Do you think you deserve any of what happened?
Of course not.
Like, do you even think
I mean, because you always talk smack like in person or online too. So the group chat doesn't prove everything.
Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit. But I mean, he's not the only one, you know? People were definitely using the pancake watch term as a weapon, and it felt like nobody was safe. Especially Eric, because he lost a lot. Yeah, that term started a lot of fights. One time, Caleb and Gabe Mason got into it. Caleb was worried that his team was, might be on pancake watch. Mason hopped in, started clowning him, and then Caleb decided to curse Gabe Mason like Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3. I don't know. I mean, maybe it worked. I mean, Mason lost in the playoffs on his birthday. I mean, that's pretty bad, right? I don't know. Maybe it worked.
So he's average.
I think his fantasy ego is fueled by his family league with, I think, really, they don't know about football.
As Caleb was desperate for a change, he ended up asking Noda about a trade. Caleb's most valuable player for a good but worse wide receiver and a second-string running back. Others were quick to tell him how wrong he was for this offer.
Oh, you know what I just remembered? There was one really toxic moment. It was a Monday night game. It was between Miguel and Mason. And Mason was down a lot, but he had the 3 most important players in the Chiefs-Titans game.
Those players were superstar running back Derrick Henry and the leading duo of the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the best quarterback and best tight end in the league. As the game progressed, it became clear that despite being down a big margin, Mason had a real chance to win, and in the end, he did. Throughout the game, it seemed like Miguel was being a good sport, just hoping for the game to be a good one. But at the end of the game, Mason responded like this.
As I think a good poet once said, I think it was, what was a prophet? Poet, whatever. I think he said, fuck around, and then find out, was it? Yeah, I think it was find out. Yeah. It was a rare moment where I was trying to show sportsmanship.
This is true. I did notice that. You were actually not saying
and I got it thrown back at my face.
That's right, you deserve it.
And I took that personally.
I don't know if something happened earlier in the season that I just forgot about, but I was actually kind of surprised that Mason was just kicking the shit out of him figuratively while he was down. Because it felt like one of the few times that Miguel was actually trying to be a good sport about things. Like, I know people had issues with Miguel, you know, just for being a little shit, but like, it just felt like a lot, you know?
I'm on Miguel's side.
Yes, sir.
I don't remember that much.
Eric does not. He doesn't associate with us, bro.
I'm only here because of drinks.
So what has been learned so far? Anything at all? So far it's mostly been stories of manipulation, toxicity, preying on the downfall of others, and some just watching it all happen. Could this toxic behavior be a sign of friendship, or a sign of deep-seated hatred for each other? Maybe there's a reason everyone is drinking so much. As I continued to talk with the guys and more alcohol got in their system, more truth about the mind games they played, dating all the way back to draft day, came to surface.
I do have to come off my chest. How do you say that phrase? Get something off my chest. I'm not gonna nut off my chest. All right. On draft night, it was his pick. I think he was like 2 picks ahead of me. Jay Jittos was still on the board, and I said, "Oh, it's probably you're just gonna have to like queue up Dalvin Cook because we all know you're just gonna get Dalvin Cook." Because I really fucking wanted Justin Jefferson to fall to me, and it worked.
Nah, I think he was just going in getting Dalvin Cook.
That's what I said. But I remember him thinking like, "Oh, Justin Jefferson is also a good upside," and then I said, "Oh, don't think about it. Just get Dalvin Cook." Like I remember saying that. And he's like, "Oh, you're right." And then I got Justin Jefferson. If you overthink it, then you're just gonna be like, "Oh," because people are stupid and early.
Listen, Miguel telling Jack to draft Cook it was a mind game, but it wasn't really that big of a mind game. Like, Jack is a Vikings fan, and for like every season of our league, his team name has been Vikings themed or literally Dalvin's cooking. Like, of course he was gonna take Dalvin Cook. Like, it was a mind game in the same way that like you could tell a gambling addict to play another hand, or like, you know, one more parlay, or like, or you know, someone that smokes a lot just being like, yo, just, you know, you want to hit, like, you want to take one more hit, like it's like telling me to get another drink. Speaking of, oh shit, yeah, I finished my drink. This is not another drink, but you know, I'm hungry, so fucking. I mean, Miguel's right. The people are definitely stupid in our league. That's very fucking true. You remember that trade between Cade and Jack, the really lopsided one? Yeah, there's actually more to that story. So, what happened was, Cade, ever since he acquired Josh Jacobs, he was trying to trade him the whole time he had him, which is crazy, right? Like, he was putting up points every week from the week he got him. So, like, why are you trying to trade him? But anyways, there was one week he was going against Noda's super team, and Josh Jacobs put up like 48 points. I'm talking like top 3 individual score from a player the whole season. And what do you know? This is a week where Cade benches him because he was scared about some illness that Josh Jacobs had. There's some little illness, and he just was like, I need to bench him. He might not score any points. He ends up putting up 48, and if he had played Josh Jacobs, he would have beat Noda's super team by 0.04 points. 0.04. 0.04 points is literally nothing. He could have beat first place, consensus best team, favorite to win it all. But he benched the fantasy MVP because of a possible illness. I mean, lucky for Cade, he wasn't really even close to making the playoffs. So this loss didn't really mean anything. If this loss mattered, he would definitely still be kicking himself to this day. If he's not already, I don't know. But lucky for him, he was already out of the playoffs, I guess. You know, I don't think I've seen a fumbling of the fantasy MVP harder than this one. Actually, I take that back. I've actually seen it happen last season.
There wasn't much of a playoff race in this season, as there was a very apparent split between the top 5 teams that were all quite good and the bottom 5 teams that were all quite bad. The start of the playoffs, however, brought everyone together in the worst ways possible.
Do you feel bad for Noda that his team was ass?
Hell no.
Yeah.
First round.
Yeah.
You feel bad for him?
Yeah. Alexei and him should have switched.
I don't even know, bro. My team popped off at the end, and when it doesn't even fucking matter. It's sad.
That was ironic as hell. Fantasy football is evil. It's evil. If I'm being honest, that wasn't even the craziest thing that happened that week. Because I had already been telling people, if Noda has one bad week, he's not going to win it all. So I wasn't even that shook by it.
This begged the question of what actually was the craziest thing to happen this week. It didn't take long, but after doing a bit of digging, I was able to find the main event of the first round, Mason versus Miguel, a rematch that Miguel had been waiting for.
From the Monday Night Miracle, you did say that you took that personally.
I took that personally.
Go ahead and describe what you were feeling in this.
A reckoning. You hadn't seen that? This is your first reaction?
Nah, I seen that.
What was going through your head as you were making these pictures and as you were sending them?
I was in Puerto Vallarta. I was there for a week with my family for New Year's and Christmas. I was fucking drunk out of my mind 24/7 there and having the time of my life because of this.
Okay.
My mom and sister, they were tanning out by the pool, having a great time, and they were like, "Why are you up in the room?" And I said, "I'm having 10 times more fun than you could imagine." Right here. And it was his birthday.
It was his birthday.
So I actually toned it back. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I fully toned it back. I sent like half of the memes I prepared. I have a folder.
Yo, I haven't seen all these before. These are fucking great. Yeah, I did think at the time that Miguel was holding back a little bit. Like, obviously he kind of went in, but I thought it was gonna be way worse. I mean, I was probably just because it was Mason's birthday, but I was just surprised they didn't go further.
I remember
7
you
of them.
FaceTimed them too.
Yeah, I FaceTime him.
I was there for that.
I FaceTime him, and dude, it felt like a funeral. They were it was at a nice restaurant.
Yeah, I was there.
And I'm like, oh, well, it's his birthday. I'm just going to say happy birthday. And I did. And like, I'm going to be a friend first.
No, he was mad at you.
And then he was just like not having it. And then he's like, all right, do what you wanted to. And I just went like that. And then he hung up and that was it.
I was with Gabe. He didn't even want to answer his FaceTime.
Oh yeah, we were there.
He didn't want to answer it.
Oh, yeah, I don't know this. What happened? What happened before calling me?
He knew you were going to rub it in his face.
I did it,
about the
though.
dub.
I did it.
He didn't want to answer at all. He didn't want to talk to you at all.
I know. That was my championship. Alexei can say some fucking bullshit of like, you know what he is. Bro, that was my championship.
We're all excited as hell. We're all like, oh, it's the finals. You know, we get a new champion, but nothing could have prepared us for what happened that next week. People were arguing for days.
I remember chaos is what I remember. I hope he gets last place.
Y'all better pay up.